Welcome back to my first ever foundation roundup. I have 8 foundations sitting here in front of me. 3 I did not like at all. 1 is about in the middle, and 4 I really loved. I do have one on my face right now. I've been testing these out, wearing them off and on for several weeks now. And this is my way of giving you a thorough summary on these foundations without all the fluff that's involved with a lengthy foundation road test single type video. So definitely let me know how you feel about this foundation roundup video down below in the comments before you leave. And with that said, let's get into this foundation roundup. It's very important that you know my skin type before I get started. Some of you know, but some of you don't because you're new to my channel. I am 44 years old, so I can speak to mature skin because your skin does start maturing when you're in your 30s. I also have combination skin with an oily T-zone, and it is oilier this time of year, which is super hot and humid where I live, which is New Orleans, and we're hot and humid the majority of the year. My skin is also very sensitive, and I do have rosacea. It's pretty reactive too. So that is it about me, and I'm going to get started with the first foundation, which was a total surprise for me. And I say total surprise, number 1, because I had zero intentions of trying this foundation. Number 2, it is geared towards, or marketed towards, I guess, normal dry skin. I don't do well with those types of foundations. Number 3, it's a stick foundation. And if you've been following my channel, you know that I have one stick foundation that I've had success with. Literally one, and I've tried countless stick foundations. Another reason why is the price. This is the priciest foundation in this foundation summary. They are not all this expensive, but let's just go ahead and get this expensive one out of the way. This is the Tom Ford Traceless Foundation Stick. I am in shade 6.0 Natural. There are 29 shades. It is $88 for 0.5 ounces. Now, I don't always look at the ounces of stick foundations in comparison to regular foundations, which typically include 1 ounce, because stick foundations are more concentrated and you use less with each application. This is a great match for me. Number 1, I thought it might be a little bit too light, but it actually matches beautifully. A little bit of this goes a long way, and it does give medium to full buildable coverage. It applies very, very easily, and do note that I am one that likes to apply my stick foundations with a beauty blender, whether it be damp or dry. I just find that they apply quicker and more seamlessly for me with a beauty blender or a sponge than with a brush, and this is no exception. I do prefer to apply it that way. It looks gorgeous. It looks very natural on the skin. A lot of stick foundations I find, I don't know, it's not that they look like they're sitting on top of the skin, but they just don't look as natural as this one does, and yet at the same time it gives me a soft matte finish, which is not what I was expecting from a stick foundation that is marketed to be good for normal dry skin. It makes my pores look really great. There is zero fragrance, and it's very lightweight on the skin. And the best part about it, the number 1 reason why stick foundations fail for me, is because they don't wear well through the day. This one does. It looks beautiful throughout the day. I'm gonna try and insert photos of foundations where I don't have them on in a video. If I do have a foundation on in a video, I will link the video down below where I have the foundation listed, so you can either see it in motion or hear a little bit more about it. But this is just beautiful. I am in love with this foundation. So I'm gonna give a big thank you to my good friend Michelle Wong for talking me into buying this. Of course she talked me into buying this. She talks all of us into buying everything, but this was actually a personal recommendation from her. She just kept saying I needed to try this, and I finally broke down and bought it during the Sephora VIB event that they had this summer. This is one of the few stick foundations that I have not had to return, and I actually love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to go through this next one very quickly because I recently talked about it in a video, and I will link that video for you. Some of you may have already heard it, so you know exactly what I'm going to say. This is the Kevyn Aucoin Foundation Balm. I know several people really like this. Actually, the reviews are pretty mixed on this. There are 20 shades in this foundation, and I am in the shade Light FB05. It's $52 for 0.7 ounces of product, and it does come with a little brush applicator as well. I don't notice a scent with this product. It does give medium to full coverage. However, it was recently in my August favorites and fails video as the one fail of the video because it just sits on top of my skin no matter how I apply it, whether I apply it with the brush or with a sponge. It just doesn't work with my skin no matter what primer I use, no matter what powder. And by the way, I have tested all of these products with different primers and powders, just like I do in my foundation road test. I've gone through that process with all of these. I'm just giving you the summary. It seems to emphasize my pores in this area where they're sunken in, and in areas where, you know, my skin is drier, it seems to give me polka dot pores. It makes me shiny pretty quickly. It emphasizes any peach fuzz I have on my face. If I have peach fuzz at that time, I can feel it on my skin as the day goes on, and it just looks cakey. I just do not mesh well with this foundation. I kind of want to hold on to this because when it's not as hot and humid here, my skin won't be quite as oily. So I'll try it again. I'm open. I'll do that. It does not work for me with my skin type and my climate combined. There are several foundations in this video that you guys have been requesting me to test over and over and over. This is one of them, and it's been out for a while, and I don't know why I haven't tested this one. I guess because I knew I would probably have to order it because so many of the shades are only available online, and it is intriguing because there are 100 shades of this foundation. This is the Pure 4-in-1 Love Your Selfie Longwear Foundation and Concealer. This Pure foundation, as well as another foundation that's coming up in this video, were sent to me through a platform called Octoly, and actually the Kevyn Balm foundation was sent from Octoly as well. Octoly is just a platform that influencers can apply to receive free product direct from the brands, and we don't always get approved for those products, but if you are approved, you're just agreeing to review the product that you're sent. So just to put some of your minds at ease, it clearly does not have to be a good review because I did let you guys know this was received from Octoly in my August favorites and fails, and it's not a good review, nor is it a good review here. These brands really do want to know what we think about these products. It helps them out. It doesn't help them if we're lying about the products, you know? The Pure foundation is $36 for 1 ounce of product. There are 100 shades, and I am in the shade MG3. This is very clever packaging because it has a pump for the foundation, and if you want to use it as concealer, it's also got a doe foot applicator for concealer, which I think is really cool. However, I find that this doesn't really work great for foundation and concealer unless you're using it to conceal your face, because I find that if I conceal my under eyes with the same shade as my face, it just looks kind of weird. I need at least a half a shade up, so I would need 2 bottles of this to use it as concealer, and that is just not very feasible. I would rather just use the smaller concealer. I did try it as concealer, and I just didn't like the way it looked because of the shade issue. So it does blend in easily. It does have very lightweight coverage when you first apply it, and I would say it is medium to full buildable coverage, which makes sense since you can use it as concealer. A little bit of this goes a very, very long way. Now, this is supposed to be long wearing. For me, in my weather, with my skin type, this did not wear well for me throughout the day. It started out well for the first couple of hours, and then my oils started breaking through. I started getting shiny, and when I blotted, a lot came off on the tissue. It's not like I'm rubbing my face when I blot, but I just found that a lot pressed off with a tissue that I blotted with, and I went to physical therapy. I had to lay down because I was having some stuff done to my back, and a ton came off on the pillowcase, which was quite embarrassing. That happened with another foundation I'm going to be talking about a little bit later. And then later, I barely wiped my nose, and just a ton came off. I just found that I barely had anything on my nose. Actually, I don't think I had any makeup on the tip of my nose by the end of the day, and I can't tell you the last foundation that happened with. So I was just not happy with how this wore, considering it was supposed to be very long wearing, and I just felt oily all day. I really was not expecting that from such a full coverage foundation. So this, like the Kevyn Foundation Balm, might very well be due to the fact that I do have an oily T-zone in this humid, hot environment. If I lived in a more normal environment, that might not be the case, but I don't. These are the cards that I'm dealt. So let's move on to a foundation that I did really like, that I grabbed on a whim when I was in Sephora, and this is actually pretty inexpensive as well. This is the Sephora Matte Perfection Tinted Moisturizer. How great is this packaging? How travel friendly is this packaging, and it's just got the little squeezy tube. I mean, I love this. This is $18 for 1 ounce of product, and there are 16 shades. I'm in the shade 7 Linen. It says this gives sheer to medium coverage, I think. I can't remember offhand, but I think that's what the website says. I find this gives light to light medium coverage, and it has a nice soft matte finish, which is great for those of us with oily combination skin who really have issues with tinted moisturizers. I find I reach more for BB or CC creams, or I tend to buy those more because tinted moisturizers just tend to make me more oily than I prefer to be. It does blend in like a tinted moisturizer though. It blends in super easily no matter how I apply it, whether it's with my fingers, a sponge, or a brush. It has no scent, and it gives a blurring effect to the skin. It's weightless, it's long wearing. It almost seems like this is a nice lightweight foundation rather than a tinted moisturizer. It's almost a cross between the Christian Dior Backstage foundation and the Chanel Lumiere Velvet, which has a different name now. It's got a little less coverage than the Dior, but it's kind of along those lines. It's a really great product, kind of a hidden gem. If you're in Sephora and you're not wanting to spend a lot of money, this is a great product to pick up. The Milk Makeup Flex Foundation Stick is another one that you guys have been asking me to try. It is $36 for 0.35 ounces of product. So you get less product in this stick foundation than you get in the Tom Ford foundation. However, it still works out to be less money if you did have the same amount of product in there. I'm in the shade Golden Nude, and there are 36 shades of this product. This is a product I also hadn't intended on trying until you guys requested it. I find that this turns up very interestingly. I don't know why, because I'm used to turning the main part of the stick, and you actually turn the bottom to get the product up. So just a little side note, I found that kind of interesting. There is a soft fragrance to the Milk Makeup Flex stick. It does give medium buildable coverage. It doesn't go all the way up to full for me at all, but I like the coverage that it gives. I am not a full coverage girl. This gives a natural finish to the skin. It's not matte, it's not even a soft matte, but it's not too glowy either. It's just a natural skin finish with medium coverage. This doesn't feel cakey or bad on the skin or anything like that that I just expect a stick foundation to do. It feels good on the skin. It also wears nicely throughout the day when conditions are normal. So on the few days where I have worn this and I haven't been outside a lot, this has worn really nicely all day, and it hasn't transferred or anything like that. But if I have run errands or I have worn this outside a lot, the transfer, it's just not very good. This was another foundation that I wore to PT, and I had my face laying sideways on the pillow, and when I got up I was kind of embarrassed because it did transfer quite a bit. And it's not like I'm rubbing my face on the pillow. I'm literally just laying there face down, but with my face turned to the side. And when I get up, it's just embarrassing. So this is one of those foundations, but I had been running around a lot. It was just one of those hotter, more humid days where I had experienced those elements. But on days when it's not like that, I feel like this wears really well. And as the day goes on, it doesn't last as long as the Tom Ford, but it doesn't wear off patchy. This is the foundation that sits in the middle because I like it under certain conditions, but it's not one that I can wear in all conditions. Yet it has its place, and in that place I blot a normal amount. It wears really nicely and it looks beautiful on the skin and natural. And by the way, I do top all of these with powder. I have an oily T-zone, so I do have to set my foundations with powder. This next foundation was a highly requested foundation from you guys, one that I also didn't plan on trying because, you know, it's a little pricey, but I ended up trying it. I've been trying it for a little bit now. This is the McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. It is $68 for 1.18 ounce, and I am in the shade 10 light medium, and there are 36 shades. So this is the foundation that I have on today. The video that I filmed right before this one was me giving you this kind of good skin look, and I did use this foundation. That's going to be the very next video that goes up after this one, probably in a couple of days. So if you are not subscribed to my channel and you are interested in seeing super close-up application of this foundation and powder, doing that video a little differently than any other video I've done. I am showing you all my imperfections, my pores, my uneven tone that sometimes you can't see because, you know, we sit kind of far back from the camera. But I wanted to show you kind of how to get that glowy, good skin look in more of an aesthetic way. I don't know what I'm going to call the video yet, but you may want to stay tuned for that in a couple of days. I would say it gives sheer to light medium coverage because it does cover up redness and even the skin tone out, and it does kind of give a blurring effect, but it doesn't necessarily cover up, you know, all your imperfections. It doesn't cover up your sunspots. And I've seen mixed reviews on this because I think a lot of people feel like Pat McGrath should have come out with a full coverage foundation because of her aesthetic, but I feel like a lot of makeup artists feel like your skin should really shine through and you should just cover imperfections as you see them. So that's kind of how I use that in the video that's coming up. I wanted to use a sheer light coverage foundation and then just conceal areas that I felt like needed concealing so that the skin could shine through. And you know, texture is part of skin. Sometimes if you try to cover it too much, it can actually look worse. So I think having a natural finish, which this does, it's not a soft matte finish. It's not, you know, a super radiant finish. It's more of a natural skin finish product. I think that fits really well for what a lot of makeup artists try to achieve. It looks like skin. It kind of just takes on the finish of skin, and it does work really well with various primers. I do feel like this is another one that wears a long time for me if I'm not out in humid weather. If it's humid, it does wear less, and it does depend on the primer that I use it with. I really like this with my Hourglass Veil primer. That's probably my favorite primer that I use this with. That's my favorite primer that I use with a lot of foundations, but I really do like it with this. So stay tuned for my video in a couple of days and I will show you this and the powder and other products and all up in my pores. This next foundation is a drugstore foundation. It is the Maybelline Urban Cover, and a lot of you wanted me to try it to compare it to the It CC cream. This is $12.99 for 1 ounce of product. There are 16 shades, and what shade am I in? I am in the shade 128 Warm Nude, and that sounds familiar. I feel like that is a shade of mine in another Maybelline foundation. This is very natural looking on the skin. It gives medium coverage. It applies super easily no matter how I apply it, whether it's with a beauty blender or a brush. It does have a slight scent to it because of the SPF, I would imagine. It did last all day on my skin. I do have to blot a moderate amount with this product. It's not shine stopping, I'll put it that way. I wore it on one half of my face and I wore It Cosmetics CC cream on the other side of my face, and I feel like they looked pretty comparable to each other all day. And I didn't really feel a difference either. I mean, the major difference between the two is the SPF. Despite the cost, I will recommend the It CC cream because it has a mineral physical SPF, whereas this one is chemical. I went into this fully expecting to like the It CC cream better, but when I wore them side by side, I really liked them both. I couldn't tell that much of a difference, but this ended up doing exactly what I thought it was gonna do. This broke me out. I wore it for 2 days in a row and immediately started breaking out. And I figured that would happen because of the chemical sunscreen. Sometimes I can get away with the chemical sunscreen if it's in a low concentration or if it's mixed in with a physical, but this is all chemical, and this is a reason why I can't use a lot of drugstore sunscreens that so many of you love. I have to use physical mineral sunscreen, and they're better for you anyway. They don't get absorbed into the body like the chemical sunscreens do, so I have to stick with mineral, guys. I just have to. And this unfortunately was one of my fails. So this last foundation I did talk about pretty recently in my video where I tested my subscribers' favorite underrated products. This is a foundation that I didn't try a while back because it does have alcohol in it, but so many products have alcohol in them these days. It's like, you know, if you're not wearing that particular foundation day after day after day, it's your call. You just have to figure out how you feel about that alcohol component being as high up on the list as it is. This is another foundation that I did receive from Octoly that is in this video. This is the YSL All Hours foundation. It's $54 for 0.84 ounces of product. So I do believe as far as liquid foundations go, you get the least amount of product in this foundation. So I'm actually not sure if this is less expensive than the Pat McGrath if you do the math per ounce. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll do that before this actually goes up and I'll have it on the screen for you. I am in the shade BD35 Warm Caramel, and there are 40 shades in this foundation. It's so thin and it applies super, super easily. This has medium to full coverage. Depending on how you apply it, depending on how much you use, it does look really, really natural on the skin and have a soft demi-matte finish, which I love. I love that type of finish in my foundations. This makes my pores look beautiful, and I hardly have to apply it during the day. It applies super, super quickly and easily, no matter what method I use. If I use a brush, if I use a sponge, it just goes on like a dream. It lasts all day. It looks good, no matter the weather, no matter the heat. It's weightless. It does have a soft scent to it, but I don't notice it after I apply it. I love this, and I am so sad that I waited so long to try it. So I thank you guys for talking me into it, because this is one that will be at the top of my wear list. I don't have a wear list, but you know what I'm saying. I'll be wearing this a lot. Have you tried any of the foundations I talked about in this video? If so, do you agree with me or not agree with me? Let me know down below. If you have not entered my giveaway, definitely do that. I'll leave the link to that video down below as well. It's really good. There are 4 different giveaways in that video I wanted to put together for you guys as a thank you for being here with me and being subscribed to my channel. If you are not subscribed to my channel yet, hit that subscribe button, become part of the family. If you have other suggestions for foundations for me to try, leave that down below for me in the comments too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.